It's that time on a Friday when we dive into the latest and greatest hidden New York. And today we're taking a look at some hidden history in honor of Black History Month, taking you to a historic Brooklyn church where they defied the laws of the land as a stop on the Underground Railroad, a space that still exists today. Walking today in Brooklyn Heights, past the rows of historic homes and tree-lined streets, you'll find Plymouth Church, tucked away on Orange Street. It's one of New York City's oldest churches, loaded with hidden history.
We are 2 blocks from the East River, and so it was a good place to hide people who were escaping.
Reverend Brett Younger is talking about slaves looking for that road to freedom. In 1847, this man, Henry Ward Beecher, became the church's first pastor, a famed abolitionist who made it his mission to use this church and this space to help.
If you were caught housing someone trying to escape to freedom, you could go to prison, you could be fined, you might lose your livelihood.
But that didn't matter to Beecher, who decided to use the church's basement as a stop on the Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad was not underground, and it was not a railroad. It was code, it was a way of talking about passengers and stations and station masters and depots so that they could have a different language as they helped those escaping to freedom get from farther south.
And this Brooklyn church became one of the most important stops along the railroad, dubbed the Grand Central Depot, very fitting for New York.
And then you start to realize just how incredible the lives of the people who came through here were.
Abraham Lincoln even has his own pew here, yes, where he once sat to hear Beecher preach. Lincoln knew that tides of change were coming.
The day after being at Plymouth, he laid out his abolitionist view. It was the beginning of him rising to prominence.
As the years passed, yes, the church's upstairs changed, but the bedrock, the foundation, did not, inspiring so many.
Dodgers win it 2-0.
Brooklyn Dodgers general manager Branch Rickey was a church member. One day he turned to his pastor and said,
"There's a young man named Jackie Robinson, and I think he's the right one to integrate baseball. I'm going to offer him a contract because it's the right thing to do."
And then in 1963, during the Civil Rights Movement,
I have a dream.
Martin Luther King preached at Plymouth, and he preached a sermon titled The American Dream. And much of it became the sermon that he preached on the Lincoln Memorial that summer.
So next time you walk by, stop in and learn the so many stories this church has to tell. Such a fascinating place. One more piece of history for you. Beecher's sister, Harriet Beecher Stowe, she's the one who actually wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. The Beechers clearly inspired by one another. Plymouth Church so remarkable, and to this day, they now advocate for victims of human trafficking and preach racial justice for generations to come. I mean, truly a remarkable place. Yeah. If you are an educator in New York City, I highly, highly recommend taking your students to Plymouth Church. They offer tours, and I think it's just such an important lesson because so much of that bedrock still remains there.
Yeah.
And you can go downstairs and actually see where these those runaways were hiding out.
Wow.
To make it to freedom.
Did you kind of get the goosebumps, you know, just
being
in that
incredible.
space?
It's just an incredible, incredible space.